Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, and man, we've all known for a very long time that the legacy game journalists out there have been trying to push an agenda inside of video game industry for a long time. They have been trying to blackmail, they have been trying to bully, and they've been trying to force a lot of these major AAA studios out there to capitulate to their weird and wild and crazy kind of worldview out there. And of course, none of those out there is CD Projekt Red, of course, because they have been pushed and have been infected by the acolytes of the cult out there. And well, now, even though there's something out there, the CD Projekt Red, when they asked a question about the romance options for the new upcoming Witcher 4, it sounds like a pretty straightforward answer that really people should be able to take at face value and not look too far into it. But of course, boys and girls, the usual suspects have to take all of that nonsense and completely and totally ride off into the sunset and run with their own wild and crazy fan fiction. And guess what, boys and girls? Kotaku's former editor, Alyssa Mercante, has added her wonderful 2 cents as well. And this is just another insanity that shows you why the legacy media is absolutely losing and the new media is rising, boys and girls. Because as you can see over here from fandompulse.substack and our dear sweet friend John F. Trent, the Witcher 4 game director provides updates on romance options as game journalists want to make Ciri gay. Because of course they do, because it's all gay, gay, gay all the time. All their Tumblr fan fiction is now headcanon to them, and they want to force all this kind of crazy nonsense right down into the middle of it. And boys and girls, this should come as no shock to anybody out there. The legacy media game journalists out there have continued to use their platform as nothing more than something to push a political agenda and force these companies to capitulate with all of their crazy and insane requests, while at the exact same time watching these studios burn down to the ground and losing hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, on games that are flop after flop simply because of the fact that they listen to the journalists and not their actual customers and their audiences. And guess what? If they continue going forward with this down this path, I promise you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Witcher 4 will be a flop, just like all of the rest of the woke activist propaganda that we have seen come out over the last few years has done the exact same thing. So we're going to check out this article from fandompulse.substack, get into what the CD Projekt Red developer has actually said, and of course what all of the crazy legacy journalists out there are trying to interpret it as. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. We are inching our way closer and closer to 800 subscribers over here on the gaming channel, and please, if you haven't already, hit that little subscribe button. It would really go a long way to help out. And if you'd also like to help support the channel financially, please check out the links in the description as well. So from fandompulse.substack.com and our dear sweet John F. Trent, Sebastian Kalemba, the game director of The Witcher 4, recently provided an update on how upcoming game will handle romance options, giving Ciri as the main protagonist. Speaking with GameSpot, Kalemba and executive producer Malonzigo Mitriga were asked, when it comes to romance, what can fans expect? Will there be any in The Witcher 4? Kalemba responded, absolutely. It's part of the way we make games. It's part of a human nature. It's a very normal thing. Without that, I think we wouldn't be able to tell the very full story. Minoriga added, it is an important part of life, and I think we can all agree. As a guy with his 6th kid on the way, yeah, I absolutely agree that relationships are a very important part of life. They foster a family, and they're part of the whole divine plan from God himself. Kalemba then concluded, but as always, we want to pay a lot of attention to it and make sure it's super compelling and very meaningful. So it's not just to make a romance for the sake of a romance. That's not the CD Projekt Red way. And I honestly would agree with them. After spending over 12 hours in my first run over there at Cyberpunk 2077, I completely agree. Now, I haven't got very far into the romance aspects of the game, nor will I probably will be, other than a couple of accidental bangs. It's one of them situations where it is a lot of fun and they are meaningful. You don't want somebody just to randomly jump in the bed. I mean, it's one of those things. We all love the God of War series, but it is always really funny how Kratos gets like health and revivals and like magic points and all this kind of stuff from literally banging chicks like right in the very first scene. Like, it's absolutely hilarious. But you know what? If you're going to do an actual proper RPG, yes, you want them to have meaningful bonds. You want to actually add to the story out there. Makes complete and total sense. But of course, as always, boys and girls, that's not how the legacy media game journalists interpret things now, do they? These comments are already being taken out of context by game journalist MD Algamum at GameRant, who claims the shift in protagonist offers developers freedom to explore non-traditional relationships, setting high expectations for The Witcher 4. You know what would be the most glorious thing out there in the world if CD Projekt Red decided to go in the complete and total opposite direction, even though they've actually already made this an option in the last game out there, is just to give Ciri a straight relationship and make her fall in love with a guy in the game, because I promise you that would have all of these freaks absolutely melting down, because it would destroy their Tumblr fan fiction brains. And I'll tell you what, boys and girls, after all the winning we've been getting in 2024, that would just be a chef's kiss for 2025 or whenever this game comes out. But at the end of the day, we know CD Projekt Red, that's not going to happen. But hey, we can all dream, right? In fact, he also writes, this is because Ciri becoming the protagonist of The Witcher 4 could offer more freedom to the developers, as they will no longer be tied down to the lore of the books. Yeah, even though they said they weren't going to violate any canon at all. This is also the opportunity to break from standard heterosexual relationships with the franchise has revolved around. Oh, you mean in also what all of human civilization has revolved around? You know, the thing that perpetuates the species and has kept us going since literally Adam and Eve? I wonder how this is going to end up working out for them if they make it a bunch of forced kind of nonsense, just like what we saw in Dragon Age Veilguard. Well, I think we all know that history doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes, and if CD Projekt Red decides to go down that path and capitulate to all of these weirdos out there in the cult, then they're going to get exactly what they deserve. Witcher 4 will flop. Former Kotaku journalist, of course, Elisa Mercante, and not just a former journalist, she was a literal director of there. She was one of the people out there that went through and looked at all of the kind of stuff, and she was one of the editors over there. So not just a journalist, not just a journalist over there at the Legacy Media Institution. No, she was one of the editors. She was one of the people in charge, boys and girls. Elisa Mercante has already beat the drum as well, claiming Ciri is bisexual. Mercante wrote on X, if anyone wants to write a piece about Ciri, her powers, or her bisexuality from a Witcher expert, I'm right here. Sounds like somebody's desperate for work. I wonder why that is. Well, you do have a lot of financial bills, although we actually know you're probably getting it all pro bono, but you do have a little bit of activity going on right now, and it does seem you seem to be a little out of work since you left Kotaku, because of course she wasn't fired. Oh, no. She made the decision to leave on her own. Sure you did, Elisa. Sure you did. She essentially went full gay feral for like months upon months with a crew of they, them, anarchist thieves. BFFR, Mercante said. I don't even know what BFFR means. I don't care. I guess I'm not up on the new woke speak or whatever it is. If you know what BFFR means, let me know what it is down in the comments section down below. But literally, this is insane. This is another one of them Tumblr fan fiction sections. And guess what? Here's the beautiful part. Shout out to John F. Trent for doing the research and finding all of the kind of stuff out there. Now, given, boys and girls, I want to give you a little bit of a cautionary warning out there. I'm going to try to avoid some of the specific words and some of the specific phrases in order to try to avoid some of the YouTube stuff right now because they're being really weird with their algorithm and their sensitive content, quote unquote. But FYI, if you have any kind of particular trauma in your past relating between, like forced activities out there, you get what I'm saying? Cautionary tale, fair warning right now. It is a reality of life. Hopefully you've got the proper help you needed. But FYI, this shows you right here how much of an absolutely tragic situation Ciri was in. And of course, Melissa Mercante did nothing more than interpret it through her own personal weirdo Tumblr fan fiction. So here's the real story, boys and girls. And this is twisted. This is sick that Elisa Mercante views this as some kind of positive gay feral relationship that Ciri went on when it's clearly the direct opposite. And we're going to show you the evidence of that right now. Much of this stems from a single dialogue option in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. When Ciri is taking a steam bath, she's asked about a man named Skilju who fancies her and what she thinks of him. The player is given 3 options to choose from. He's not half bad, seems nice. To tell the truth, I prefer women. So obviously you've got that option. It's a role-playing game, right? This is not anything new out there to have a gay option for any character, regardless of sex. But this is where things get really disturbing, and this is what Elisa Mercante is referring to here when it comes to the gay feral relationship. Let me know after I go through this and read all of this. Does this sound like the most positive relation for you out there? Spoiler alert for the books. Also, sensitive content warning is officially applied. It also comes from its second and third novels by Andra, Time of Contempt and Baptism of Fire. In Time of Contempt, Ciri is raped by a girl named Missile. Yes, a girl. Boys and girls, I wonder what Elisa Mercante's relationship is that she's referring to. In the book, Missile prevents Kyla from raping Ciri only to do it herself. Sapolsky wrote, Ciri shuddered beneath the touch of the dry hand, hard, rough hand. She lay motionless, stiff and tense, full of an overpowering fear which took her will away, and an overwhelming sense of revulsion which assailed her temples and cheeks with waves of heat. Kayla slipped his left arm beneath her head, pulled her closer to him, trying to dislodge the hand which was tightly gripping the lap of her shirt and vainly trying to pull it downwards. Ciri began to shake. Missile then interrupts and threatens to cut Kayla with her knife. Kayla then got up and left. However, as noted above, Missile takes his place. Missile lays down beside her and covered her tenderly with the fur, but she didn't pull the disheveled shirt down. She left it as it had been. Ciri began to shake again. Her hand was smaller than Kayla's, more delicate, softer, more pleasant, but its touch stiffened Ciri once more gripped her entire body with fear and revulsion, clenched her jaw, and constricted her throat. To be clear, Ciri is around 15 years old when this happens. Now, boys and girls, you know what I mean? I'm a little bit up there in years. I might be a little bit younger. I might be a little older than you, but I've been involved in a few relationships, let's just say. Now, I don't know about you, but hearing that described from Ciri's perspective, at what point does any of this sound consensual? At what point does this not sound like it's a woman forcing herself on a 15-year-old girl? This is what Alyssa Mercante flicks her bean to, boys and girls. So exactly, remind me again, why should we be listening to anything she says? Maybe not, but maybe it's okay. Maybe it gets better from there. Oh, no, boys and girls, because I'm sure these next few paragraphs and these next few scenes out there going throughout the book are exactly what Alyssa Mercante fantasized it was about, okay, even though clearly ignoring the fact that their first interaction was forced. In Baptism of Fire, the abusive relationship continues, but Ciri also makes it clear she's had enough of Missile abusing her. I asked you, Ciri, who was lying on her back, snapped angrily. I asked you not to touch me. You've been acting strangely of late, young falcon. I just want you to stop touching me. It's just for fun. I know, Ciri through pursed lips, just for fun. It's always been just for fun, but I've stopped enjoying it. Do you see? For me, it's no fun anymore. Last I checked, no meant no, right? Weird how that doesn't apply when they interpret it as their Tumblr fan fiction. I don't understand, Missile said, turning her head away. Why don't you leave if being with me is so awful? I don't want to be alone. Is that all? That's a lot. So I don't know about you. I'm no psychologist. I'm no psychiatrist. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But looking at this from a 40,000 foot view, being somebody that's paid attention to the world for quite a while, I don't know. Does this scream Stockholm Syndrome to anyone else? Like, I mean, seriously, this is a classic example of Stockholm Syndrome. The captor forces themselves upon them, right? And then eventually, because it's better than that, it's either that or the abuse, it's either that or get knocked around, you just lay there and take it. If this was a man, this would be a horror scene, and Alyssa Mercante would be blasting this as sick, misogynistic nonsense and nothing more than a great fantasy. Well, guess what, Alyssa Mercante and all the rest of you sick, twisted Tumblr freaks out there, grape is grape. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. At the end of the day, this is what it is. If you force yourself upon another person, even if they capitulate eventually, I don't know, maybe after weeks of you doing this over and over and over again, she once again is clearly putting her foot down. And I don't know about you, maybe I'm just crazy, but after an experience like this with a woman, I'm pretty sure Ciri is going to be sworn off women and not be gay forever. But of course, reality has never mattered to any of these people out there, whether it be Alyssa Mercante or any of the rest of these little psychopathic ignoramus assholes out there. It doesn't really matter, right? Because all that ever matters is their Tumblr fig and fiction and their own head canon. Alyssa Mercante looks at an abusive, kidnapping, Stockholm Syndrome relationship as something that she wants to flick her bean to. This is sick, this is warped, and this is disturbing. And this shows you once again another example of why no one takes the legacy media seriously anymore, except for the people that are possessed by the spirit of the age. And this is why they've lost. This is why they fail. This is why Witcher 4 will fail. Because at the end of the day, they decided to side with that screaming little mob, and I do call them a mob specifically because they use mob tactics to force their agenda into these corporations out there. This screaming little mob out there on the social media. And I hate Yahoo for ever buying Tumblr and getting rid of, let's say, the more spicy content out there, because all of those freaks left Tumblr and flooded Twitter at the time time, now X, and then of course they turned into their own little screaming mobs. They got out of their little echo chambers, they got out of their little bubbles, and then they started attacking all of these major corporations out there. And these major corporations bent the knee, and they hired all these people, and all the good, talented folks out there got replaced by woke acolytes of the cult, and this is why they've lost, because the legacy media has continued to support and push this agenda over and over and over again. And guess what? It was always just a screaming, insignificant mob out there on social media who got their voices amplified by people agreeing with them on that platform who never once represented any kind of significant portion of the population. Why? Because guess what? These people don't show up. Concord should have been the #1 game of the year if these people actually existed in any kind of significant amount. But guess what? They don't. They don't show up to play your games. They don't show up to buy your stuff. And I promise you, CD Projekt Red, if you capitulate to these people and make Witcher 4 nothing more than Tumblr fan fiction for people like Alyssa to flick their bean to, I promise you, you will go the exact same way every other game in 2024 is gone. Go woke, go broke. This is why we are the new media.